You've reached the Union and Metro Street podcast, where we discuss the San Diego music scene of the late 80s and all of the 90s, from the shows we worked to the shows we played. Here we go. Who do we have with us today?
Hi, I'm Sulo, and I'm the singer from Authentic Sellout.
And what was the title of that song we just listened to again?
Let's Go Nowhere.
There we go. So what's up, Sulo? How you been?
I've been pretty good. How about you guys?
Good.
Hanging in there.
Yeah, it's great to see you, especially Jerry, since it's always a special treat to have you back in San Diego.
Yep, not here enough, right?
That's the absolute truth. You have to pay him now to have them come down.
Costs money to get down here.
Well,
Gas isn't cheap.
Yeah, and Oxnard's no joke. I remember when I met up with you when I was on my way to Monterey to go visit Andy, our rhythm guitar player. So he's been living up there for work for like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it takes a long time to get here.
Yeah.
Well, I used to do that drive every weekend when I was doing SOMA for like 2.5 years. So
I remember that.
Definitely no joke.
I was actually there your very last day.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
What show was that?
Pennywise.
Oh, that's a good one to go out on.
Yeah, I witnessed the reason why he left, too. We all did, backstage.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do we want to dive into that story? Or
that's up to him.
Well, it's up to you guys. I mean, whatever. Because you were working for
House of Blues.
Yeah. Doing loading and load out and all that.
Dave Carell called me up and said, hey, you want to do an easy gig? We need a runner for Pennywise. And their loading was the easiest loading I've ever done in my life. It literally, I felt like I was loading in my own gear. It was just one half stack, one bass amp and the drums, and that was it.
Punk rock.
Yeah, punk rock to the core, man. I love that kind of stuff.
No metal.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
a lot more gear.
Oh, the backline's insane for some of these bands. I'm like, dude, you know you're playing a 400 seater, right? You're not playing an arena. It's not the 80s.
Yeah, some of those were the worst when they pull up with a semi and you're looking at it just going,
Bringing their own sound and lights in. It's like,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, it is what it is. If that's what they're used to and they're going to be running their whole gig, and I'll push around some cabinets. I pushed around plenty of cabinets. The best for me was watching Neurosis. Their guy packing their U-Haul. It was a complete science. I mean, literally, you could not do any. You could bring the cases out, but he would look around and he just trying to find the right one, and he put it together like a puzzle. It was insane. It should have been in 2 trucks, but he got it in 1.
Well, that's awesome.
They probably have their packing plot where they have it all set up. They know which goes where.
Yeah. That's the thing that Scott told me is like, no, just we'll bring him out. I forget the guy's name, but he's like, he'll take care of it. And he knows, just let him do his thing. So I let him do his thing.
Between the 3 of us, I'm sure we got some interesting stories. So
Yeah.
For everybody out there, SOMA was a huge impact on my life as a kid.
Yeah.
My father turned me on to the place when I was probably barely 14 years old. And he went to buy tickets for, I think, Sublime or Social Distortion, something like that.
Mhm.
Can't remember exactly what show it is off the top of my head. And he's like, hey, I found a place where you can go crazy every weekend and I'll keep you out of trouble. And from there, I just started going to the side stage shows. And then that eventually led into the main stage shows. And I met kids my age in bands, booking the shows. And I wanted like every aspect of that.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, I got that opportunity to get my foot in the door when I was 20 at Kane's Bar and Grill. And that's where Jerry and I got really introduced again years later by a mutual friend while I was working there. And I was actually trying to get back the old location on Metro. I remember I worked as kind of a liaison while he was up in Oxnard. This was before, SOMA went by Sports Arena. It's probably 2000.
Probably 2000.
Yeah, 2000. And, it was a total no-go when I went in there.
Yeah.
And at least I tried and got a definitive answer. But eventually someone came back, and I remember he brought Len by Kane's Bar and Grill when I was working there. And Len, after meeting me, he's like, I heard, you've been really trying to root to get SOMA, open and at least find out what's going on with the location. I really appreciate that. And now that we have a secure location, how would you like to work for us?
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I don't want to be doing this, very much longer. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And, I came by and he gave me a tour of the place when they were under construction. And then I ended up getting a job offer at Brick by Brick, running the whole booking through that. I met a sound guy named Big Vinny. He took me under his wing when I was 20. And I was singing in a metal band back then because punk got really silly. And I stopped doing punk for a while and tried some, newer, trendier genres at the time.
Right.
Like a lot of the hard rock, kind of like Papa Roach type stuff, I guess.
New metal.
Yeah, new metal, whatever you want. Yeah.
Plus, I was going to say, too, I saw you when I was on Ozfest in 2000.
That's right.
You came out to...
San Bernardino.
Yeah, San Bernardino.
Yeah.
Was that Glen Helen or whatever?
Yeah.
Used to be Glen Helen. Kind of the area where they do Coachella.
Glen Helen. I went up there for a couple Ozfests. That was a lot of fun. I remember seeing you that year. Yeah. So it was really cool how you eventually got reunited again with the new location at Sports Arena, and I would go and visit, and then it all came into a crashing halt one day, unfortunately. And, I don't blame you for leaving. I would too. If anyone ever talked to me that way, embarrassed me. But
yeah.
But you know what? You had a lot of pride. You finished out your shift. You didn't pull any attitude. And I think you went out in a real classy way.
Yeah, I walked. The next day there was a show and I wasn't there. So
Yeah. Wow.
it's just you can only take so much abuse and stress. It just builds up. But I was pretty used to it. Actually, back in the Metro days, Lynn actually never was abusive towards me. He was more towards Jerem.
Oh yeah. And
then when Jerem quit, he was fine. He was fine. I didn't have any issues with him back at that time period. So
he seemed a lot more mellow when I went to the newest location, and for whatever reason, I just got the balls because from what I understood in the rumor mill was I was just so beat up in the public eye through rumors and everything else, thanks to Len and the rumor mill. So when I went there, he just seemed a lot more mellow, and it was like definitely a different environment. It comparing downtown to where it's at now is so different. But then at the end of when you ended up leaving, it just, I don't know, the place just, it's not the same, so the monster probably just came out of him, and I can't speak for him, but
well, I think too when you have your wife working there as well, it just wasn't the same. Him with her, and a lot of stuff he said he was going to do never happened. We were actually going to do another SOMA in Anaheim.
Oh wow!
And I was actually going to run that, and then he was going to handle San Diego, and then also too you met Scott when it was first me and Scott looking. That
was also back in 2000. I remember that.
Yeah, because we came over to Canes and talked to you, and and I introduced you to him and said, "Yeah, we're serious. We want to get another SOMA going." Because no offense, you were working at Canes. I hated Canes.
Dude, a lot of people did. And
I actually tried to be the booker there, and just I don't know.
I just went to go see a show there. That's how I ended up getting a job. I was talking to a security guard who just turned 21, and he's like, "Hey, they're looking for someone to drive this golf cart. Pay $7.50 an hour, and you can chill, watch shows, pick up chicks, cart around the bands, meet your heroes, whatever." And I was like, okay. And he's like, "I'm gonna go walk up to my boss right now. See that guy over there? He's gonna give you a job." And I was like,
Did you get a paycheck actually, or did you get paid cash?
Payroll.
So that's a legit job because we always get cash.
If I got paid. Oh, I mean, yeah.
And that was the summer MTV's Beach House was built. So that was an interesting summer because I started right before, in May. And I was there for 2 years. I ended up getting fired because I snuck a couple friends in the back, but I was already working at Brick by Brick at that point.
And then
So
since we opened, Canes went under.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Because Eric was like, "Oh, someone's not going to do anything. You're not going to get the bands back." And I'm like, "Dude, we have history."
Eric was...
You don't have history. He was trying to badmouth us in the Reader and a couple other local zines, and I'm like, "No, someone's legendary. We have the people, and not only that, dude, the new SOMA was huge.
No, big time.
Yeah,
2,500 people. I mean, there's no comparison.
No,
for smaller venues. And not only that, we had legit dressing rooms. Canes didn't have that. They had that one room behind the back of the stage.
And it was so awkward, too, that green room was so narrow.
Yeah. There was nowhere to really put your gear. The only thing that Canes had going for it was the beach. That's it.
Well, it also changed, too, because they started out doing all ages shows, and that age restriction changed over time, too. And it was 16 plus, and then became 18 plus.
And now it's all, doesn't matter. You can sell alcohol with all age.
Yeah.
You can have all ages, kind of like LA is and always has been. So
taken how many years to get to this point to be like LA and other markets that are similar?
Yeah. When I started, that was one of the things that Len always wanted to get a liquor license.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that before.
And we could not. I mean, he fought and did whatever you do to get the licenses. Grease whatever palms, and there was just no way. Even into Metro, I think at some point at Metro it's just like, fuck it, we got our formula. But yeah, that was a major thing. Always wanted to get the liquor license, and the licensing in San Diego is so bizarre anyways. I mean, if you have dancing, if you have some tables out so it's not dancing easily or whatever, then you don't have to get your cabaret license. And the license is just so ridiculous. So I never understood how at the beach, which especially PB, because of how much more violent it was, is, very well by working at Cane's, how some of those shows would go.
Well, I think because they served food there too, they were a restaurant in the back.
Yeah.
They were able to like work something out. But the only other places I saw where they had that blend, but they had that they had restrictions. Like at House of Blues, they had to rope off the 21 and up like bar area.
Right.
Well, that's because that was San Diego.
Yeah, yeah.
The code for San Diego.
But like,
you got to keep the drinkers separate from the underage people.
Then you have an San Marcos, which basically allowed all the all ages kids to blend in and hang out with all the drinkers. They could be bizarre by the bar, and that's okay. I mean, if they had to have wristbands and be monitored. And I started doing shows at the Jumping Turtle. And that was the venue that really appealed to me back then when I was still doing Brick by Brick, because all the bookers were like, what's this new spot in San Marcos? Because there's never really been a well-known venue up there.
No.
There was like Long Shot Saloon, and they tried. They had a couple national shows, but nothing like what I was bringing in there.
So you were at Cane's for 2 years, and then you went to Brick. How long were you at Brick?
I was at Brick from 2002 to 2010. So when I started at Brick, I started out as a security guard. Then I bar backed for a while, and I was still working as a security guard while they gave me a couple nights out of the calendar. And then eventually, probably maybe 6 to 8 months later, I was running all the booking. The guy that I replaced, Hendo is what he went by. He just didn't show up for work for like 2 weeks. He went through like a gnarly breakup, and my boss was like, I don't think he's coming back, man. And he still worked there because he also bartended. So I think he was just overbooking,
Right.
And I was like kind of just interning in the office for him, as well as booking a couple shows, learning the whole trade. And he's like, hey, do you want this position?
Yeah.
It doesn't pay much hourly. I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And through that, I, made all these connections, all these doors opened up. And I remember one of my favorite connections that I made was when Metal School started having a residency at the Roxy in LA. Someone had told me that there's a thing called Club Courtesy. If you contact other venues and you're also in the industry, that you can get comped into these shows. And back then, Metal School was like the most popular night in pretty much the whole Sunset Strip. And it was a Monday night too, which was crazy. It was free entry, but like so many different types of celebrities would come out, and all these guest singers. I even saw Axl Rose sing his own songs with them one night. I went up there multiple times. I booked some of the bands I was managing there. And I formed the relationship with Lou Adler's son. Lou Adler's a founder of the rock scene, who also discovered a lot of the greats like Cheech and Chong and Pee Wee Herman, and just was like a record producer for like Mamas and Papas, helped co-write songs for them.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, I met his son Nick Adler, and he was so impressed that I was only 23 years old running him Brick by Brick, and he's like, I'd love to Brick by Brick. I remember that venue. I used to manage Snot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's how he had
trying to think of
originally known that venue. So he's all, ask for me when you get up there. So I went up there, and the next thing you know, and then I'm like in his office, just totally chilling with the guy. It was amazing. It was like a dream come true for me. And that place was like my Brick by Brick of LA.
Yeah.
And then I just transferred right next door to Rainbow, and you'd see everybody there. You'd see Lemmy hanging out with his white boots on, just posted up in the corner playing his little game.
Yeah.
I actually heard that he died playing that game. He just slumped over playing it. They took it from Rainbow, and one of the Magliaris was there. I think like Mike or something like that, and just.
You gotta
Just dump
I don't know if
it.
Jerem knows who Mike is. You probably have to let him know who Mike is.
The Magliaris opened up Whiskey A Go Go, and then I think they were shareholders for part of Rainbow.
I think they own the whole. I think they own the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the name.
Because I know Mike. I know Mike owns both now.
yeah.
Whiskey and the Rainbow.
Well, I met Mario, who founded Rainbow, and he passed away a couple years ago. I actually went to the first year they had the Sunset Strip Music Festival. They had a thing called a tribute to the 3 stars of the Strip. And it was a tribute to Elmer Valentine, Lou Adler, and Mario Magliari. Elmer Valentine was so old because, he opened up whiskey, what was it, like in the 60s or something like that. Mm-hmm. He was in a wheelchair. And he died 3 months later after that. So I was really stoked to see that piece of history. And he was like so touched. He had like tears running down his eyes. And
That's
what
awesome.
A great way to go out, being honored like that.
Oh, yeah.
He had the singers from the girl singer from Mamas and Papas come up and pay tribute to him.
Michelle.
Yeah. And then,
yep.
And then Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
Before they publicly reunited. That's kind of like the start of it. Lou convinced them to come and roast them.
Oh, really?
Pay tribute to him. And then Slash paid tribute to Mario Magliari and told a lot of rad stories about how he used to sneak in there before he was 21. And it was like maybe 40 people there. And then the most random shit, you had fucking Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray as the MC. I'm like... Okay.
He's still around?
But this is back in like the mid to late 2000s.
It's weird that they only did a couple of those Sunset Strip music festivals.
And then it just went away all of a sudden.
They're pretty cool. I actually went to the one with it was the Offspring, Marilyn Manson, trying to remember who else.
They had
a bunch of bands on it. It's pretty
big
cool.
Names come through there.
That sounds really,
It's kind of like San Diego street scene back in the day when it was downtown.
Right.
So what they did was they'd block off like 3 blocks of Sunset, and then they had all like the Roxy, the Whiskey, all those places were open with bands playing in there.
Right.
And then they had like 3 stages out on the strip with the bands playing. Huh. And the other thing that was cool about it was like $10 a park. You just find a parking garage somewhere, and then you got in. That your ticket got you into all the venues, and they were handing out free water and soda and like energy drinks.
That's
like,
amazing.
Who does that?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame they stopped doing them. Street Scene probably was the coolest music festival I've ever been to. It was so unique. I worked
3 of those.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and
I went to a couple just to run around and show face and.
Dude, Sex Pistols played.
I was just gonna say I gotta see the Sex Pistols. I mean, who can say they're running during REM, the end of REM set, to get a good place to go see the Sex Pistols?
Yeah,
and I had the best place, the best spot for that show. I was on stage, sitting there watching them play.
And I missed the secret show the Sex Pistols did at Roxy one year, which I was pretty bummed.
Yeah,
that and X-Ray Specs. Those were the 2 bands I wanted to see. X-Ray Specs, because she came back and did one last show, and then she died of breast cancer shortly after. Can't remember
Was it Penelope?
Singer X-Ray Specs. What's her name?
No,
again? Pauline.
Yeah,
Pauline, right? Yeah. So her daughter just did a documentary on her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That just gave me chills.
Yeah, because she never really got to know her mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were kind of estranged or whatever. Yeah, so I'm gonna check that out. I think it's on Amazon. I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm very like into music documentaries. I love watching them.
I used to back when when I would get home from SOMA at 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and a couple of things that would be on whatever cable I had. One would be was it VH1 music docs?
Behind the Music.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So we're talking, the mid 90s. And then another one, I would watch like This Old House and all those old home improvement shows. I didn't know that I was watching those because I needed to have a career after SOMA.
I never knew I needed a career after Brick by Brick, dude. I know exactly what you mean, man.
Yeah. So
Why did you leave Brick?
yeah.
That's when the recession hit, and it was like the late 2009 where we really started feeling it, and Max had already started. Max was my boss, owner of Brick by Brick. He had bought into the place in 1997.
It's also when they added the restaurant.
He had the restaurant next door. Yeah, so it started off as kind of like more like a comfort food style type restaurant. It was real nice, but it's just in the wrong location.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best burgers I've ever had. They made there. Yeah.
Now it's a barbecue joint.
Yeah, and now it's a barbecue joint called
slash Cajun
Bull Smoking Barbecue, and Max actually sold his shares finally to that because he was pretty much running it up until his business partner passed away.
Okay,
he was an old Sicilian guy, Tony. Rest in peace, Tony. And so he's officially out of that whole Brick by Brick entity.
Yeah.
And you were there when like Alice was there and Gina was there.
I started a couple years after Alice because she was doing the scene when I started. And the scene was really cool. That was like
I think Soma killed that too.
It was a terrible location because it was like an industrial complex.
It was a recording studio / practice spot.
Universal Sound. So they used to have 2 locations. They had the one by Sports Arena, and then they had one there. Actually, my first demo I ever recorded
same here
was at that place.
Yes, same here.
Right next to where the scene was.
And they were all reggae guys that were owned that. Was it Sean, I think?
Sean, and Sean also has a Universal Sound that is still open off Miramar.
Huh.
So I rented my first rehearsal studio monthly room that I ever rented was at that place.
That one.
That's when I was in a band called Triad back in the early 2000s. But it's Sean still runs the place.
Nice.
I have a few friends that rent rooms there. Actually, we had a drummer a few years ago that
Sean was always cool.
He was in Hornswoggle. Remember that band?
Yep.
Yeah. Brian Gaeta.
Yep.
Shout out to Brian Gaeta. He was a great drummer. I mean, he was like, I'd always make fun of him because I was like, dude, you're like the loudest drummer I've ever seen. I was like, we're not playing in Motorhead, dude. You don't have to keep up that like heavy, you know what I mean? Yeah. His drums would like almost overpower the amp sometimes.
That was Hornswoggle was like to me that was like the band that was going to blow up at the new SOMA.
Yeah.
Because they played the new SOMA a lot back when
they were a great band, Hornswoggle.
It was Hornswoggle, Mower, Early Times, but now they're Pierce the Veil.
They went and blew up,
yeah, they blew up, and then there was a couple other bands. Letter Kills, they got signed, and I don't know whatever happened to those guys.
Counterfeit, remember them?
Yep.
Yeah, Justin Rodriguez. I actually produced and popped his cherry for his solo project. So he kind of resurfaced like recently. After a long hiatus, and took him to Cabana Recording Studio where I started working out of once I closed my studio, Iacon. And he did the track in one take. It was incredible. He sang and played acoustic guitar. It's got like a kind of singer-songwriter meets Southern vibe. He had a lap steel guitar player too.
Oh, nice.
On the track, and then the owner of the studio is a percussionist and drummer by trade, so he went behind the kit and did a little bit of percussion on it, and you can listen to it on all the streaming platforms. Justin John Rodriguez.
You know, it's crazy. You're talking about the new SOMA. October of this year, SOMA would have been open 20 years.
Oh, really?
It's insane when you think about it.
The sports arena location. Yep. I remember that first New Year's Eve show. I was so stoked because I was a little older, and I remember going to those when I was a teenager. And man, I mean, someone just radically changed my life, and I'm so thankful that my dad went down there to buy tickets, ended up meeting Len, and said, you know what? it was almost kind of like my father's the type was like, well, he didn't like force me to do things, but he like, well, I think you should do things because
heavy suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. And he, you know, I mean, he let me get away with murder back then, but he also didn't want me, you know, burning out on drugs or getting into, you know, arrested or some crazy shit like that. So SOMA was a good outlet for me.
Right.
Let out my aggression. That was his whole point.
It was like the community center back in the day.
Exactly. And I remember seeing you there when I first started going there, and then
Of course, you saw me there.
yeah, of course, and then I eventually met Jerry there, and we were more on acquaintance level. We didn't start becoming friends until 2000 when I was 20, and my first show I ever threw on my own was at the Hollywood Star and Grill in downtown. It was on Halloween 2000. And I just started working at Cane's in May of that year. So I remember I made a giant poster at Kinko's.
Yeah.
And I had it taped to the shield, the like windshield of the golf cart to promote the show. My boss was cool with it. He thought it was pretty cool that I was throwing a legit show. So,
well, your boss was Eric, right?
Eric, well, he owned the place, but I had a security manager. So there was Tony, and then there was Damien, and
you weren't there when they closed, right?
I actually was.
Were you there?
The very last night they had doors open. I watched them close doors. So
what was their reason for closing?
I can't remember exactly what it was. There was a lot of factors that played into it. SOMA was probably one of them. I think a lot of it had to do with the rent being inflated. And they wanted to do sound wave. Like the owners of the property wanted to do something different there. There was a lot of issues that happened. When I started working there, that was when like the whole, the bouncers were out of control. And, you know, there was all these accusations that, you know, we're all skinheads and racist. And not me, but there was a few incidents where I was like, dude,
you guys did have some pretty gnarly bouncers that were kind of out of control, unlike we had.
Well, I witnessed some stuff that I had to be hush hush about. Like, it was completely out of control on some incidents. And I'm like, dude, you don't need to let out your rage on some idiot drunk or some poor kid. You know
so is this at the point where things were escalating so much that basically the what's it called? The lunatics have taken over the asylum? Because PB has always been fairly violent. And there's some gangs down there. Oh. But then you add in the alcohol, the beach. So you have tourists.
Tourists get killed down there.
Yeah.
I heard stories about like some Swedish guy getting like mugged and then both his kneecaps shot out, you know, just going to the restroom by Hamels.
Yeah.
I remember witnessing firsthand some probably, I don't know, Mexican gangbangers were chasing each other. One guy had a knife, was chasing him around in broad daylight, and I was there early for TSOL load-in.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, some random black guy's like, dude, what are you guys doing? There's families walking around here. And they finally disbanded. I don't know if like anyone got hurt during that incident, but it all of a sudden just happened like it was all set up too. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
because there was an upswing of just violence everywhere. And I think a lot of property owners started to see that. And then obviously, you know, the first go-to is to blame it on the punk rock clubs because everything's by this point is labeled a punk rock club.
Right.
You could have nothing but metal and, you know, a bunch of hippies and then be like, oh, no, it's a punk rock club because it's live music. And because that's kind of what was established and made. You know, once Green Day and Blink and all the bands started to become popular and make it popular, punk rock became a noun.
Right.
Or an adjective. And, you know, just to explain away certain things.
You know, the coolest cop moment I had working there was I was in the parking lot and TSOL had like an RV back then. Mm-hmm. And they had it parked like kind of catty corner to the club because they were loading everything up. And this cop rolls through and cops always came and checked on that parking lot. And they're like, hey, what show happened tonight? I was like, oh, band TSOL. I was like, really? He's like, I used to listen to them in high school. And I was like, well, you're talking to me and pretty much the whole band minus the singer. He's like, "What? Really?" He's all, I can't wait to go back to the station and tell all the guys that I met to you as well.
That's awesome.
I was like, this is the coolest cop I've ever met in my life, man. Yeah.
That is cool. Give him a little moment, and you can tell that he's honest about it, right? He's like,
dude, he's
stoked.
I wish you could have seen it, Jerem. Like his eyes lit up. I've never
Oh, that's awesome.
seen that.
There used to be a cop that would hang out at in front of SOMA, the new one, and it was a guy I actually worked with. He used to do security for Staff Pro, and I was working for Staff Pro, and I recognized him, and then I would let him go into the shows and all that. So he was always keeping an eye out front. So it was kind of cool. He'd just park his car there and kind of like, set a presence where nobody's going to get out of hand. The police are right outside. So, but we never, just like Metro and Union, we didn't want the cops there.
Right. Especially Union.
I never once saw cops at Metro.
They were
rarely.
Well, when they would roll through, it was like, everybody would rubberneck. It was like almost as if they came through with a giant flashing, their lights going and siren and everything, because everyone would just kind of look at them like, oh, fuck.
Well, it wasn't the city.
Trying to hide. Even if you don't have anything, you're just...
At Metro, it wasn't the city police we had issues with. It was the university police who had problems.
Oh, yeah, because the USD right up the hill.
Yeah. Those guys would give us... It created a lot of issues.
Yeah, they're kind of a bully pulpit of things.
Well, that's why I thought when going back to the scene in that industrial complex, I was like, this will never last. Yeah. And eventually they only had like a short, like 1, maybe 2-year run or something like that.
Well, the thing is, the setup wasn't all that good there, and the sound wasn't that good there.
The sound wasn't that good. The setup was okay.
It was a low stage kind of,
but the sound bounced around too much in the place. They didn't.
It's like an open. Oh, like you were putting a show on in a store kind of type.
Yeah, not even like a warehouse. It's more like a store, I guess.
Yeah.
But like the place got trashed. And I knew like the other business owners in that complex.
Yeah, if you don't,
going to shut it down.
If you don't have good security or people outside that deal with the other businesses, they will shut you down. Especially if they don't have a property manager, or if they do have a property manager. It's like when I was running SOMA SD, I had to make sure all the windows were clean for all those businesses that were around there. There was a lot of businesses around there.
Metro.
Even it's funny because when we opened SD up, Black Angus was complaining, "Oh, you're taking all our parking spots." But what was funny was actually Black Angus ended up making tons of money because of SOMA opening up. Because everybody went over to drink.
I did. I went there to have dinner, or most of the time just drinks. Yeah, 100%. So now they're not even there. They got rid of that place.
Yeah, the business
demoed it.
The business
they put
boosted.
up a parking lot. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what nothing went in there.
They leveled the whole building.
Yeah,
that's stupid because they were making money off of SOMA.
Yeah,
big time.
Well, I'm sure there's some other bullshit that went behind it, but that's the thing about Tio Leo's embraced it at Metro, but literally. And anyone that worked for me knows all the lots have to be clean all the way up to freaking USD, because those people, they're assholes. They're just upset because probably their people weren't staying on campus.
And the fact that you guys would sit there and work for who knows how long after the shows, cleaning up that
hours.
mess. Every single night there's a show. My hat goes off to you guys because
we didn't have a choice. We had to.
No,
a lot of venues, probably wouldn't even put that kind of effort into it.
No,
No.
We had to make the neighbors happy.
That's another reason why it lasted so long. Because it was kind of forced upon us, but at some point, like what Jerry and I have talked about before, and you'll recognize this, is the way we ended up running it, Len didn't have to be there. He could be off chasing tail or whatever the fuck he's doing. Because we knew what the hell was going on. So we knew the lots had to be taken care of. We knew that we had, our people.
The kids had to
come
be
to the shows, we
had to make sure no kids were left out there. I'd give kids rides home all the time.
Yeah, no one left behind.
That's really cool that you did that.
And then, make sure the lots are cleaned up. Like people, Mikey or whoever would, I'd send them up to the Coke parking lot. I don't know if they ever complained because I was doing my thing in the back, but every parking lot all the way up to USD and across the way down to 7-Eleven, Carl's Jr., everything had to be cleaned up. For one, it's a respect thing. For two, it's just we're part of the environment. We're part of the neighborhood. So to be able to do what we're doing, we got to play our part. They don't give us shit, but we don't cause problem.
The other thing, we'd stick out like a sore thumb because we were only open, twice a week?
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes 3 times a week. But if we allowed the trashers to pile up, then they knew exactly where that came from,
Yeah, any trash at all. And then graffiti. And, that was a point of contention with me is I hadn't noticed graffiti on Office Depot yet. Because, I had to open the club, I had to clean the club, I had to prep it so that everyone can come to work. And then Len comes out and starts freaking ripping on me about the graffiti. And I realized right then, I'm like, dude, you fucking do your job. You come here, open up this fucking place. I might make $50 tonight. Fuck you. But then seeing the graffiti was there, I also took that personal, like, well, I got to take care of that because I also go into Office Depot to get all my stuff for SOMA. So
R.I.P. Office Depot.
Yeah. Actually, Jerry and I looked at it a couple of times and we did some research on it. We got to the point where we were possibly going to go in, but the price on it was through the roof.
Office Depot?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they closed.
It's been repainted. They got something going on there.
They cleaned out all the homeless people.
When did they close Office Depot?
Oh, it's been closed for years now.
We looked at it almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's been closed 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Because I think school wanted to take that. They're trying to buy up all the properties around.
Yeah. Because we went into the flower shop and just doing some reconnaissance and because we were serious about, what's going on with Office Depot. But now it's all painted and they got something going on there.
Well, you guys were looking at when I was getting off Sassafras, what was it, a print shop or whatever?
Yeah.
I always think about
block.
that. Yeah. The whole block. This time I really paid attention to it, because I was like, okay, I'm prepping myself coming in here. And then I was like,
should drive in there.
I almost did. I almost wanted to, but I didn't.
It'd be a badass venue there, and then we could set up other businesses.
Yeah. At least, I think there's enough space in there to have, 8 businesses?
Yeah.
And there's also parking. And now they've, because there's adjacent parking lots. There's actually an even bigger one that the guy was going to sell it. He's out of Arizona because I have.
Have you guid been inside yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
We have a security guard posted out there.
Yeah. We did get. What would they want? 10 million?
10 million.
Whew. So we offered them $50.
What's the square footage on that property?
That property's huge.
I forget.
It's huge, man. It's multi-level.
I wonder how old that building is because, 10 million just to buy the building.
It's going to take millions to clean it up.
That's what I assumed, yeah.
So could have hired all the homeless people.
10 million to buy it, 10 million to open the club.
Because even the California Theater, I was looking into that.
Yeah,
it would take 40 million to clean it up.
Jesus.
Well, we looked at the California Theater when we were leaving downtown before Metro, and that's why we ended up doing those shows at the Scottish Rite Center. And we went in there. We went in the building. I had some stuff from it. I had old rope, a giant Wurlitzer poster. Len and I went in there specifically and checked out the whole venue.
Because that's an 8-story building.
There was a crack den on one of the floors. Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
The thing was, Len was saying, well, you can have a floor. Nevison can have a floor. I'm like, yeah.
There you go.
This sounds cool. But,
I wonder
realistically
back then. I wonder what it would have cost and what the rent was going to be.
Yeah, I don't remember, but there was no parking there.
No,
realistically,
it's all street parking.
Well, yeah, 4th and B, a rad venue, but no street parking.
Yeah, and it's annoying.
You had that small lot in the back.
It's the same with House of Blues downtown.
Yeah, it's
you
horrible.
got to go find a parking.
Yeah,
and then get harassed, and but the California Theater, talking about spooky.
Oh, I bet.
Because that's old.
Yeah,
it's old.
I was spooked out. It was crazy. One of the dressing rooms
was built in the 20s or something?
Yeah. something like
Well,
that.
what about the theater that Tim Mays used to throw shows in I want to say it's Normal Heights. They were talking about like reopening that for a while. North Park Theater. No, what was it called? It was like a fabric shop for a very long time. It was on, I want to say Adams.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
If V was here, she would know because there's.
It was kind of by like Lestat's over in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of that place, but
yeah, in the 80s, like, man, they had some huge shows
Mhm.
in that place. I've heard so many legendary stories. It's been a long time though.
Well,
But-
that UGG Music War video that with all the bands from they're playing different venues,
Mm.
like they Oingo Boingo at the Whiskey. It was Devo at the California Theater
Oh wow.
Oh wow,
on that video.
wow,
It was like 1982, I believe.
I did get to see Devo in 2006
really?
at House of Blues. Yeah, that was pretty rad. I remember I took.
Was Josh playing drums with them?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was when they were involved with Tony Hawk and the
The
Boom Boom Hug Jam.
Yep.
So ironically, speaking of Tony Hawk, I didn't realize when I went to the will call to pick up my tickets that Tony Hawk was right there picking up his right next to me. And I took Max from Brick by Brick, and Max is like, "Oh my God, did you see Tony Hawk was right next to you?" And I was like, "No." And I got free tickets or on the guest list for Devo because I knew their booking agent. He owned this agency, Boss Booking, and Rob Juarez. Shout out to Rob Juarez. Yeah, he had. I used to book like a lot of the '80s bands, like Berlin and
Oh, nice.
Dramarama,
The
from
new
him.
wave band.
Yeah.
Missing Person, stuff like that.
Yeah, I know Hawk and Mark Mothersbaugh are still fast friends, and because I listen to Hawk and Ellis's Hawk versus Wolf podcast every now and again. I kind of follow a little bit because skateboarding, and that's what I like to listen to
Right.
podcast about. But yeah, so Mark's still, he's doing all sorts of stuff now. So who knows when Devo will pop up
But
again.
he was doing like scoring for like Nickelodeon or something, wasn't he?
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing some scores.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Oingo Boingo.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah. They just, they found that niche and they can, stay in music and stay relevant. So it also helps for when they can just get a few people
Mm.
and do another Devo thing here and there. And then I'm sure Hawk is behind pushing
Right.
them.
I just saw Devo at Punk Rock Bowling last year.
Yeah,
Last
yeah,
September.
okay.
That was pretty
That's
epic.
right. They
Yeah.
played the main stage.
Yeah, I was so impressed. It made my top 10 list of all-time greatest shows I've
we
ever
were both
seen.
there.
Yeah.
Actually, I left that day. though.
I remember I hit you up, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you should have let me know." I was like, I had no idea you were going to be out there. But when I saw Suicide Machines on the bill, I thought of you, and I was like, "Well, that's kind of a trek just to go see them." But I also wanted to see Lunatics, so that's why I chose the
nice.
day that Devo was headlining. And plus, it's fucking Devo. How often do you get to see those guys?
Yeah, I've never seen them,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Lunatics.
They played Soma.
What was their
Yeah.
big reunion
they were fun.
gig? I think
Yeah.
they didn't even get. They might have before the pandemic started, got to do the reunion show in New York, but that was like their big reappearance after like
Yeah.
Wasn't it
almost 20 years or something
yeah.
like that.
Wasn't it the Lunatics and the Toilet Boys playing together?
I think so. That sounds.
Because I know
about
I also
right.
know Lunatics played. They opened for Rancid as well.
Yeah, their tour manager and I got along famously. She was just fun to work with, and we kind of understood. So it was like one of those, when a manager comes in with the band in a new venue that you've never met, you have that tension sort of thing going on if they have an attitude like certain bands would.
Right.
But she just came in totally open, and we got along famously, and it worked because it makes the evening so much easier when you have an understanding and you can communicate. And then the next time when a band comes in, it's like, oh, hey, it's like old friends coming through.
Right.
So yeah, I always did enjoy the Lunatic shows.
I met them at Warped Tour. Same year, I saw the Donnas for the first time. T.S. Well for the first time. That's when...
You never saw Donna's at SOMA? They played at Metro.
I might have, but I don't think so. And then I went, going back to like when I was talking about metal school earlier.
Yeah.
So there was a all-female version of like metal school, basically, and the guitar player from the Donnas was involved in that, and the was a bass player from Corey. She was in Nashville Pussy for a while, and then she was dating like Dwayne Peters at the time, so he was there during their sound check. But unfortunately, Dwayne Peters was like struggling at that time because his son had just died in a tragic accident. And I remember talking to Corey about that. She's like, "Where's Dwayne?" I was like, "I don't know. He just disappeared all of a sudden." She was like, "We're super concerned about him." But yeah, this all-female version of like metal school was pretty cool. They had the drummer. She, I think, was in Hole for a while.
Patty.
She had like really short hair. Yeah. And then
she was actually going to be the drummer for Nirvana at one. I think she even played in Nirvana for a short period of time.
Okay.
She was they were all really cool. The singer was like some Playmate. And then I remember I took them all out to Old Town for lunch before one of their shows, because I was like doing a monthly residency with them for a while. And I only ended up booking them like a few times, and that whole band was very short-lived and never really took off like metal school did.
Right.
And I thought it was a cool concept, and I wanted to start bringing it down to San Diego, you know, because no other cities were really booking them just yet. And yeah.
It's hard to get a band to introduce it into a new market and really push. I mean, you have to put a lot of effort into it.
Well,
you know, like, you know,
100%. These agents, they come at you like sharks with these huge price tags. And I learned real quick that you got to stand your ground. Like, like you need us. We don't need you. Like, so I got a lot of shit because Brick by Brick was the metal capital back then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people got mad because I switched gears and I wanted to make the brick more universal. Of course, in music venues, rock clubs primarily, certain stuff doesn't really work. Like I can't just book a jazz band and expect, you know, people to want to come.
That's why I never booked Jewel. Literally. That was one of my things because, you know, it was weird enough to do, like I did Drive, and I would do more contemporary. We even had, Len had Dave Matthews Band and things like that would come in every now and again to the club. Jewel's manager wanted me to book her, and I'm like, I don't think I have supporting acts. We're not Winston's. We're not whatever it was that she used to play in OB all the time, the coffee shop. But nonetheless, I'm like, I don't think I have an audience for her.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to book someone and basically have them up there as a target. I'm about developing bands. So that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. You can't just put anyone anywhere. You have to have a market for them.
Well, that's why I would work with like promoters that's specified in those kind of genres. Like I used to do this one night with Catherine Beeks. I don't know if you know her. She's a singer-songwriter. She's been in the scene forever. And she had this rad concept she did for years called Acoustic Alliance. And she'd take like Steve Poltz and all the different singer-songwriters. I mean, we had so many different names come through. And she'd have like, I think, a row of like 5 or 6, you know, guys with acoustic guitars on stage. And they would each run down the line and play a song each. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I'd never seen another promoter come up with an interesting concept like that. And it worked.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would work. I was like, this is more like Lestat's type coffee shop music, you know? Like,
exactly.
You know, bar.
Even though it's, you know, Poltz is, he's a legend.
Yeah. Well, she had that influence in the community. And, you know, she was hosting like a radio show. And now she's doing like a podcast. She moved out like into the desert. But she's still all about San Diego.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I love that about people that are like us.
Yeah.
And so passionate about what we do and providing entertainment for people in our city. And, I know.
representing the city.
I just wish San Diego could be a little more prominent like LA. I mean, we are a touristy city, way more touristy than LA in the sense that, you know, we have the beach and SeaWorld and Belmont and,
Yeah.
you know, Wild Animal Park, Balboa Park, you know, a lot more
The zoo. And,
desirable scenic places. You know, how many people do you know like, oh, I'm going to LA for a vacation?
Lego,
Yeah.
Legoland.
Yeah, Legoland.
You know,
Oh, and
that's
there's
more Carlsbad.
there's a
Yeah.
Sesame Street, which V saw the other day when we were driving somewhere. She goes, Sesame Street land. I want to go there. And I'm like, really?
Oh, is that the water park or is that at SeaWorld or
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Sesame
know.
Street, huh?
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't even
I
been-
saw something about that.
Yeah, I remember hearing a little something about that, but
Sunny days.
yeah.
Is that what it is?
Sunny
I don't-
days.
Is
Oh, okay.
Sesame Street's still on air? That
don't
show's
know,
still
are they?
going, I think.
I think so.
Like 50 years later?
I heard of characters being developed that are more PC, is what I've heard, and I believe it's got to be Sesame.
Well, I'd like what the Muppets did when they brought back like the Muppets the last time and made it into like a reality show, but it got canceled because a bunch of moms got angry because it was. I don't think people realized that the Muppets was more designed for adults than anything.
On acid.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's why like Dark Crystal was so misunderstood back then. Now it's a cult classic.
Yeah.
And The Labyrinth. I mean, that's a great movie. I mean,
watch it just to see Bowie act.
Exactly. There's only been one other movie I saw Bowie in. That was The Man Who Fell from Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that just popped up in
Where he played like some weird alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was perfect because
Because
Bowie is an alien.
Yeah, Ziggy. Yeah, I remember seeing that a while
Yeah, he
back.
didn't die of cancer. They just took him back home.
Yeah, exactly. They beamed him up.
I mean, God, the guy was smiling and like, he didn't even look sick the day before he passed away. And I heard he had 6 heart attacks during the production of that last album.
Wow.
I can't wait to see this new like documentary coming out about Bowie.
Oh, I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, it's going to be epic.
Yeah, I got to.
My father took me on to Bowie.
Are they gonna make a movie?
They did an unofficial biopic. I found on Hulu, which
It's like all the other
garbage.
All the other movies like Freddie Mercury, Elton John, and Elvis.
That one was unsanctioned.
And there's one
Bowie
about
estate
me.
did not want it to happen.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
There's not one about me.
But there could be.
Yeah, called trash. But no, this. So I was curious about like how we've kind of discussed it before, but I want to play some more music from you.
Sure.
How did you start Authentic Sellout after the metal band when you got back into it? Like how did that process get going? And were you still booking shows when you started it, or
It's such a funny story. I was still working at Brick by Brick. I was probably in my prime of my career there.
okay?
So I stopped doing punk. My first band was called Diverse, and that was like, I was like Darby Crash. I was like, I'm in a band, and the band wasn't even real. We played one gig, and I was like playing guitar and kind of singing some backups at the time, but that's how I started singing. I picked up the mic because our singer, he just wanted to pick up this chick.
Yeah.
And wrote like a love song to get her. And I'll never forget, it was my 16th birthday party. And then I had a band called Lioness. We played SOMA Side Stage once. That was the only time I got to play SOMA there. And
was that with when I was there or Jerry?
that was when Jerry was there.
Okay.
Because I was older, like a year or two older than the guys. I was 18. And that band was short-lived. And then I started my own punk band, Buckshort. And then after that, things got really weird. All that bubblegum punk like Yellow Card and stuff started coming out. And I remember I was trying to form a new band. And people were like, so it's like Incubus punk? Is that like what you're looking for? I'm like, oh my God. So these people have no clue. And that's when like new metal was thriving at that time. And I was like, you know what? I'm listening to like Korn and Deftones, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm going to try something new because I like to scream. So I did that for a while. And then it got to the point after like 2 more attempts, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in a band anymore. So for 6 months before Authentic Sellout was started, my bandmate Andy, he goes by Andy Danger, and that's actually what his kid's legal middle name is, Danger.
Nice.
He's got a Danger tattoo on his forearm as a tribute to his son. And God, we've been doing the band so long now. His son is going to be 20.
Oh, wow.
Pretty soon, in a few months. We started the band in November. It'll be 16 years ago in 2006. So he kept trying to tell me, he's like, dude, you always talk about how you should be a singer in a punk band. I see why you're a perfect frontman for it. So let's do a punk band. I was like, no, I was against it. And then my buddy Frank Torres, he had this band called Unset that just blew up, this hard rock metal band in San Diego. And he would draw like 300 people and sometimes even sell out brick by brick, which was amazing. We realized we had birthdays about a week and a half apart from each other. So we decided to do a dual birthday party, and it became like an annual thing for many years. And that's how Authentic Sellout was birthed. He kept bragging about how, don't you wish you were in a band and, playing a show on your birthday? And I was like, because I had told him, I was like, well, dude, I haven't done that since I was 16. That's how I started singing.
Yeah.
So I secretly started a band behind his back with no name. We wrote 3 originals, and I always wanted to do a Sex Pistols cover. So I wanted to do Pretty Vacant, but the guys wanted a more popular one that was more recognized. So he did God Save the Queen. And
everybody did that one.
Yeah.
Or actually,
I get it.
Actually, Anarchy in the UK.
But I did convince them to let me do Summertime Blues, and I did it the Brian Setzer version because it had the ripping solo.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big Eddie Cochran fan, and I still am. So we did 5 songs. We played 15 minutes. I wiped the floor with my buddy Frank. And Frank, years later, became my business partner and head audio engineer at our studio that we had for 7 years, Iacon Sound. But we did these dual parties for so many years. And I remember when it came time to advertise it, my reader rep's like, you have to have a band name. I was like, this is just going to be for one gig and that's it. And so a little birdie flew on my shoulder one day and told me that people were calling me a sellout because I was going to be in a band, and they were starting to hate on me for that already. And I had my fair share of haters. I mean, when we're in this type of business, we all have them.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to talk shit.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's just pure envy or just they are not happy with their own lives. You know what I mean?
Caught into the rumor mill, and then they just run with it.
So I was like, all right, let's call this band the Sellout or the Sellouts or something like that. Every rendition was taken. And I was like, all right. I was like, what am I going to do here? So after hours of searching on Google, 6 pages later, I came across an old Angel Fire ran site that was still active from 1996 called the Punk Band Name Generator. And what it does is it acts like a slot machine. So you put in your keyword and it'll generate the band name for you.
Right.
And it looks just like a slot machine too. It's pretty cool. And then every other rendition with the word sellout in there was completely retarded. Pretty punk, but some of them were just like absurdly ridiculous. And then it put Authentic Sellout together, and I was like, that's it. Perfect name. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a joke of a band anyways. I'm just doing this to entertain my friends and just have some fun.
Yeah.
People started singing the hooks of the choruses to the original stuff we wrote to my face on the smoking patio after our set. I'm like, how do you even... No one knows these songs. He's like, dude, they were so catchy. They just stuck in my head. When's your next show? I was like, that's it. You just saw the show. And the guys were all around me, and they're like, dude, let's do another show. And then another show, I did another show, and I was like, all right, that's fine. A year later, we're a full-time band. You know what I mean? Yeah, I remember we opened up for Voodoo Glow Skulls. I booked them at 710 Beach Club because my buddy Brian, he pretty much bought most of the club, percentage of the club. He was a bar manager there for years. And he really loved Voodoo Glow Skulls, so I would book them there occasionally. And we weren't even a band that was like a year old. And I remember Frank comes up to me, and I'm still friends with Frank to this day, the singer of Voodoo Glow Skulls. Well, not now. I mean, now they have Ephraim from Death by Stereo. But Frank comes up, he's like, oh, man, how long have you guys been a band for? You guys are great. I was like, not even a year. He's like, what? And after that, Tim Mays, I think that was the first time we ever played Casbah, had us open up for punk rock karaoke, and Eric Melvin from No Effects remembered me from when I had booked punk rock karaoke, or Casbah brought punk rock karaoke to Brick by Brick, and I went up and sang Pretty Vacant with them. And I had probably done like 7 shots of tequila with him that day or that night. Yeah. So by the time I got up there, I was wasted. So, I mean, that was one of those memorable moments. And I was surprised that he still remembered that.
Yeah.
Because
that's awesome.
It was like maybe a year or two prior. And then he comes up to me after my set. He's like, was that you up there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, man. He's like, how long have you guys been a band for? I was like, not even a year yet. And he's like, what? He's like, man, you remind me of like the singer RKL. And I was like, Rich Kids on LSD. I was like,
yeah. Jason Sears.
Yeah. And Jason Sears passed away at a rehab facility in Imperial Beach.
Really?
Yeah. So anyways.
R.I.P.
So,
well, speaking of, so we can not dwell on that. Let's hear a song. What do you want to hear right now?
Let's do American Dream.
Is this one of your earlier ones, or?
This one was on our second album. Our first album was just our first 2 3-song demos combined. And then our second album was our first actual studio attempt.
Okay.
I did that when I bought my studio. I was like, now I can't. That was part of the reason why I wanted a studio, so I can actually do records the right way. And
okay. So let's listen to this, and then I want to hear more about your studio and some of your favorite shows and all that. Let's do a deep dive on that. Perfect. So again, what's the name of the song?
American Dream.
And that's off of the second album?
Yeah, it's off our second album, Take Back the Streets. So we played a couple songs off that album actually yesterday. And American Dream is now a name for a beer collaboration we're doing with a local brewery called Division 23. And that's where we played the show at yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's our first time doing an actual event there. And it was successful. We had a good time. And we played the title track off that song, Take Back the Streets. And it's crazy because we listen to that album now and we're like, wow, it's like we almost kind of manifested all the shit that happened and ensued during the pandemic. And then we even look at like our last album cover. We had Jimbo Phillips, who, you know, his
famous skateboard artist.
His father made the talking hand insignia. Yeah. And I mean, the guy was just a legend. So we,
I think I have some of his. Don't I have a Santa Cruz?
I think so.
Up somewhere. I know.
This place looks like a skateboard museum in here, so I'm sure it's somewhere in here.
It could be in one of the stacks. I know V was riding one for a while. The Slasher, which I believe he did the Slasher. I don't have too much Santa Cruz because I have mostly my stuff and then vintage. But I mean, that's out. That's amazing, really. He's a brilliant artist. And what year did you put that out?
2018. So I met him when we were working with Celebratory Clothing. We would play on some of their shows, and you know, they were just mainly like a clothing company. Mm-hmm. And they approached us after one of the shows we played and asked us if we wanted to work with them. And they introduced us to Jimbo because they had an exclusive deal on all their designs and artwork for their company.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was searching for an artist to capture exactly what I wanted to do. Because I had written this song called Technology. And then I brought in like Marcos Curiel from POD to produce the song. Because I was like, hey, I think we finally wrote like a kind of poppy, more like an actual single. I've never looked at any of our songs like that before. And I mean, we had licensed songs out before. We licensed American Dream on a Netflix docuseries before. Now it's cool. We can talk about that a little later, but the artwork, I wanted it to be centered around someone staring into their cell phone because I wanted it to be relevant.
Right.
But that to show all the problems in the world. So he created like a whole vortex that we're getting sucked into. And in that vortex is all the problems that's going on in the world. And now I stare at it. And I remember when, like, you know, the BLM movement and all the
cancel culture and
everything was going on. And the rest of the guys and I, we'd have these discussions like, dude, like, listen to like the last couple albums we did. It's crazy how like all this stuff is more relevant than ever.
Right.
You know, because we never really pushed our last album. We were going to put it out on vinyl because, you know, it's so hard to like put out a physical product that people are going to take home with them.
Right.
Vinyl's more expensive than ever now, and we still haven't put one out. And we blew our budget on shooting a music video.
Yeah.
For the another song off our self-titled album.
Where did the budget come from?
The budget was just money we accrued from show guarantees, and I put in like most of it. You know, we all kind of pitched in. And we got a really good deal. Tim Piles, you know, that was a DJ for 91X and 94.9.
Yeah.
He introduced us to this video team, these independent guys that he would bring in because he was doing a thing called the Piles Sessions at different recording studios and would bring in the national acts that would tour that he'd select, like the Bronx, for example, and bunch of different bands, and he'd cycle through all the different studios, and he'd come, you know, every once in a while and bring a band in. For example, I handpicked TSOL and set it up. That was one time I actually set one up, and
that was in your studio too, right?
Yeah,
I remember that. And
you would record 4 songs from the band. Sometimes they strip down and do acoustic set, and
they would do it naked.
I I guess I can see how I opened up and walked into that joke. But yeah, it was cool with TSOL. So I remember Jack Grisham was telling me old stories about playing with the Beastie Boys when they were a punk rock and hardcore band.
Jack's got some good stories.
Yeah. He was like, it was like in New York, and it was like them, Bad Brains, and Beastie Boys all together on one bill. And I was just like so enthralled by the story. And he was telling me stories about Pat Brown and shit like that.
Yeah.
Legendary Pat Brown stories. It was cool because Jack's a hard person to get to sit down and actually talk to. He's kind of introverted in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really see him hanging out too much at the shows either.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I met the video team. And then we got booked at this festival called Wasteland Weekend, which is a post-apocalyptic Mad Max themed festival, kind of like Burning Man meets Mad Max.
Right.
There was like 4,000 people there, and I think it was like the 10th year that they've had it. And this was back in 2017. And I was like, we have to film a video. Like, we have all this amazing cosplay production around us. I mean, they had a replica of the Thunderdome. It's just, you see all the replica cars and everything, and all the cosplay people in the video, and it makes us look like we're in this post-apocalyptic future. And that's what we stylized Radiate to be about, because it was already kind of designed like that. So our last album, it's kind of like almost every song on that album is like a different chapter. And the way we put it together and the track listing is like, this is before the apocalypse, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Now we're in the apocalypse, you know.
So it's kind of a concept.
Yeah. It was like a concept album. That's why we never came up with a title, because the artwork was so bitchin'. It just says Authentic Sellout up top. And then I was like, where are we going to put like the album name?
Right. Right.
We can't put it over all this epic art that Jimbo spent such a long time designing, and he absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was put it out on vinyl, because it was just too good of
so you
art
can appreciate the art too.
Exactly. And then put the poster insert like the old days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So eventually I still want to do that. I got a lot of rad ideas. There's one video that I want to put out on that album called One Way Ticket. And that song's about, you know how like Richard Branson and I think Elon Musk are in the fight to, you know, take all the rich to space. And
right.
You know, they're advertising how you can take, you know, your first trip into commercial trip to outer space.
Don't forget Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, exactly.
Bezos, isn't it?
Bezos, whatever his name is. Yeah.
Let's send them all up to space.
Yeah.
As I'm concerned.
So that song is all about a revolution happening.
Mm-hmm.
And in the video, it has to be animated, because there's no way we can do that like with no budget, real budget, Hollywood budget. I mean, it would look like something out of the 50s, you know, like a cheap sci-fi movie.
Like a Godzilla versus the world.
And we could do it that way, but
well, don't do it on my train set. I'd be pissed. Because that's what you would have to do realistically, unless you build an entire, you know, city, and then to be able to, unless you do it CGI. But I mean, what kind of money is Bezos going to front the money to do that video?
I think he would be pretty mad at the video, actually, because in the video, we're in this totalitarian, like dystopian future where like a government is ran by like some corporation in that sense, and Earth is dying, and they're leaving all the you know, poor people behind, and we revolt and take over the ship and leave them behind in the video. So One Way Ticket is like,
pretty cool.
We're going to Earth 2.0, and it's a one-way ticket there, you know?
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so the only real way to do it is animated. So that's another great idea. I mean, we've had so many ideas. Like, we almost had a comic book called Rock and Roll Justice Council come out back when I was throwing Comic-Con after parties for this company called Shocker Toys. And Shocker Toys made their claim to fame because they put out the Metalocalypse series of action figures.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
another collection I got to collect. Damn it. I have to
Yeah.
bring that up. I need all of them. You got to collect them all. It's kind of like pugs. You got to collect them all.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, now all my collectibles are in boxes still because my ex called me the trinket man.
Oh, geez.
Or Toy Town. She's like, "How old are you?" You know, because I dated someone a little more opposite of me for a change. But you know, she also wanted to stylize the house a little more to her fashion because it's a small place.
Yeah, you know.
But she let me keep the room intact, so as long as the bedroom was intact, that's all that mattered for the compromise there. But yeah.
But when it comes to writing these songs, how do you do it? What's the process? Like, if say you're working on your next album, or even the piece that you were just speaking of, do you start off with music and then work into lyrics, or do you have like a concept that you want to make things work with? Like, where do the ideas derive from?
Well,
dreams.
The only real core member that has been in the band almost as long as I have is Andy. He started off on bass, and I had been in 2 prior bands with him before that were his bands. But our visions starting to really clash, and I wanted to do something different. Then I got burned out, and he's kind of like the core songwriter and the music director for the band.
Okay.
Each individual member has brought stuff to the table, and we've collaboratively written together. That's why we're so stoked to have Mario back on drums.
Right.
Because that guy is not only a super talented drummer, he's like a little Travis Barker Jr. in my eyes. But he's so energetic, and he can actually play guitar, and he writes songs, and he's very hook oriented too. So he wrote like the song "Take Back the Streets." He helped come up with the hooks for "American Dream." A lot of the choruses off "Take Back the Streets" were all written by him. A lot of the choruses on our self-titled album were written by him. So it's amazing to have him back, because we missed that kind of songwriting synergy, and I think that's what left us in a funk, because he was out of the band for a few years.
Right.
And he just recently rejoined in April this year again. Okay. So we're working on some new material right now. And speaking of which, since it's so fresh, it's just since Andy moved up to Monterey for work about 4 years ago, it's been kind of a little more challenging, but he's got a little, set up at home, and he'll just send us tracks. And now we're all capable of sending tracks back and forth to each other.
Okay.
So he'll send me something fully produced with digital drums, and he'll be like, "Here, put your vocals on this," or "Here's like some lyrics, like put your twist on it," or "What do you got?" And we'll send lyrics back and forth, or I'll just send him an idea. Then he comes into town because his son lives here, generally about once a month, and he'll be in town for like 4 or 5 days, and we'll rehearse typically before a show. But right now we're really trying to focus on writing. So we have a new song that we want to not only just take in the studio, but make into a music video. We were actually talking about that yesterday after our set, because we had our video production guy, Craig Ryan, there, who's behind not just our music videos, but our Sellout TV web series as well. And for those of you that are curious about our beer, if you log on to Authentic Sellout's channel on YouTube, our latest episode for Sellout TV actually walks you through the whole process of how the beer is brewed.
Right.
And he even did like animation explaining how beer is made. And we, my bass player and I got to sit there and actually make the beer ourselves, which was really cool. Yeah. And we wanted to design like a very definitive beer that had kind of a citrusy flavor, that wasn't too heavy, was light, people can drink it, and it was refreshing and would give you a good body high, which is a very, very almost impossible task to try to accomplish. But I feel like the reception we're getting is like we almost did that.
Yeah.
Like it was just at Beer X last Saturday at Waterfront Park. and we sold out all the beer there. I couldn't make it because I had another event going on that day, but I remember my phone just exploding with text messages at the end of the night
of appreciation.
Yeah, just like,
That's
oh my
awesome.
God, like everyone loved the beer, and we're looking forward to doing the event, which we did yesterday.
Right.
That was a lot of fun, and now we're going to start doing these things like quarterly.
Okay. Is it a lager? Is it a Hefeweizen?
It's they call it a San Diego Pale Ale. It's very similar to like the Tony Gwynn beer, the 325.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not too familiar. Realistically, yesterday was the first time I had beer in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I had a couple beers over a few hours. The first one I actually got a freaking buzz off of. Yeah. But they didn't have wine there, so I could sit there and be a wine snob while we were doing our thing. But
that happened to our first batch. Our first batch was like 6.1, 6.2%. And I was like, we got to lower it down a little bit. So now it's at 5. And
it's called American Dream?
It's called American Dream, based on the song that we played earlier.
Right. So what you were saying earlier that when you proposed the name, your brewer was like, this doesn't, really work well. What was?
The owner of the brewer wasn't, the owner of the brewery wasn't too hip on the name because it's a name that had been kind of floated around before, but no one's actively using it now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's not really a marketable name for a beer.
Okay.
But when we made the beer, when I was thinking of a name, he's like, what do you want to call it? That was the first thing that popped into my head. I was like, you know what? I was like, American Dream.
It seems fitting. But it also has a story behind it.
Exactly.
And with any marketing of anything, if you don't have a story behind it, it's not going to work.
I was like, this is a beer for the people. That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be called American Dream. And I had Chris Arms come and revise this little like coin guy logo. We call him Greedo, that we had designed. Tattoo artist friend of mine sketched it out for us, and we kind of altered it ourselves. So I had Chris come in and revamp it because we wanted to do our first series of merch.
Right.
And you saw the hats when we put them out last year. Yeah. You wanted the classic logo though, but that's funny because out of all the merch we've had in different designs, everyone just loves our logo and wants that more than anything. And then I had Chris also come in and he did a couple different renditions of the Greedo character, like a crossing guard one with like a little mohawk. And then he made like I think a third rendition of the guy with just a circular coin, but with a mohawk. And then one without, like that we actually put on the hats. And so on our beer tap, it's just that little circular coin character, Greedo insignia. And then what we did was I just made these vinyl stickers because I looked at their tap handle that they had for Division 23. And I was like, man, I don't need to make a custom tap handle. I can just go through Sticker Guy and just make these nice vinyl stickers and put them on each side. So I measured the dimensions appropriately.
Yeah.
Ordered the stickers and it worked. Because we had a real limited amount of time because our release show like just popped up all of a sudden.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to do this before we go into the holiday season. And I'd like to have at least like 1 or 2 more shows before the end of the year.
Right.
And whenever we play a show, we try to have our beer there. So Casbah was like the most nerve-wracking one because I wanted to make sure that our beer was well received. And people liked it. And especially my buddy Mike Cosiella, who does like Taco Fest and Beer X that just happened last week. I really valued his opinion probably the most out of anyone that's there because he's working on spearheading the San Diego Beer Museum.
Okay.
Which is like a huge startup that he had to kind of put on the shelf for a little while during the pandemic, mean, everyone went through.
Everyone put a lot of things on the shelves.
San Diego has a lot of breweries, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we're the craft capital of the world. So he really wants to do every San Diego brewery on tap, have like a museum part of it. The concept was birthed because him and his business partner, my buddy Twan, both of them actually own the studio that I work out of now. they stumbled across a ice cream museum when they like to go on road trips together, and like they're like, I wonder what this is all about, an ice cream museum. And they were fascinated by the history of ice cream. And then afterwards they were having a beer and they were talking about their whole experience there, and like, man, you know, they can have a museum for anything. They should have one for craft beer in San Diego. And then I don't know which one of them said it, but they're like, you know what, we should do it.
The light bulb went off and it's like, bam.
Exactly. So I hope that the concept comes to fruition. They had a lot of people willing to invest. They had Tony Hawk like endorsing it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they had like a not like a fundraising campaign video,
right?
That they were sending out a really cool like demo reel with like a lot of the top brewers in San Diego talking about how, you know, San Diego Beer Museum would be a great thing, something that San Diego would, you know, put us like a little more on the map and recognize, you know.
Well, it's nice to be recognized for, I mean, realistically, in the last 20 years, it's just, they've popped up all over the place, and there's a lot of great brewers. And it's nice to be recognized.
Yeah.
You know, San Diego Music Awards and, you know, other different awards. It's always nice to be with your peers, exchange ideas, and just grow as a scene. That's the whole thing about trying to book shows now, and me, Jerry, and I basically working with all of these different people trying to help reestablish a scene. It's the same thing in anything that you're interested in. You know, like this place is basically a skateboard museum, and when I go, it's either going to be sold off or it's going to be given to a established museum, so they'll have another 400 pieces or whatever. But you know, with the breweries, last night at Evolution, where we had our event, the place is amazing. And it's not like you walk in, it doesn't smell like a dive bar. These are nice, well done, cleaned up places. And they people put a lot of work and a lot of artistry into their breweries to make it a place where you feel comfortable. So it's come a long way. To see a museum to acknowledge all that would just be amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
And they still want to do it, and I'm confident that they will, you know.
It just takes time, you know.
Sometimes takes years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they want to do a whole facility that has part museum and then kind of like a restaurant bar area, and then like they'll have some like an area for music too. So
yeah.
I don't know what kind of acts they'll want to book there, but probably nothing too large scale. But
I'd like to see more people get really focused in on local stuff.
Yeah, they were looking at a minimum of 15,000 square feet. That's a pretty sizable building.
Yeah, a great deal of it's going to be taken up just with their brewing facilities, and then, you know, a museum in itself.
What's kind of crazy because a lot of these breweries are doing shows across the U.S. So I see a lot of tours now. They're playing breweries, which is weird.
Yeah, and look at NoFX has their own beer now, for example. Like the whole, you know, collab thing. Like,
when that backfired on them.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't there at Punk Rock Bowling when that backfired on them, but I remember that whole incident. But
what do you? Just to clear it up, what do you expect?
It's NoFX.
I mean,
that's what they're known for.
It's just taking a little cheap shot, and if you get that offended, then don't support them.
Well, the thing is, they were going after a whole nother music scene, because they were going after country.
It was just too soon. That festival had happened maybe 6 months prior. They were in Vegas where it happened.
I don't think it was even that distant. I think it was like maybe a month to 2 months.
Was it?
I was thinking, yeah.
I don't think it was.
I think you might be right.
I don't think it was that far.
It was just way too soon, and I was kind of offended because I had friends that were there helping save lives that were at that music festival.
I had a friend that was shot in the leg.
I had a friend that called me and said one of my friends just committed suicide because of the PTSD she experienced at that event.
Yeah.
So it was gnarly, and it's one thing to crack a joke, but when the whole band started chiming in and they took it that far, I was like,
oh, okay. So that's a different.
You know what? Like, there's things you joke around and do for fun and games, like all the jackass type shit.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about death, there's nothing funny about that.
Well, yeah, if you can make light of it, But if the whole band's jumping in, they're making it a big scene. That's a complete different
if
thing.
you watch the video clip of it, like you can hear people in the crowd starting to boo. And for me, that was a first.
Well, it's also when bands start to get political too. You know,
Yeah.
you want to be entertained. You don't want to listen to politics.
I remember I was at the Turf Club right after that incident happened, and I was talking about it to my buddy, and all of a sudden, this guy next to me chimes in, and it was all the Stone guys that put out their beer.
Yeah.
And they were pissed. They were like, we dropped them like a bad habit, man. Like, and said the same thing. Like, there's certain things you just don't joke around about. And there's a video I saw, like a little Q&A panel with like Jack Grisham and some other, I think like Keith Morris and some other guys talking about it. I think at Punk Rock Bowling.
Okay.
The whole incident. They were kind of like, they meant it as a joke. Like, I hope people don't get too offended and take it way too seriously. But, it's just, it is what it is, man.
Well, I mean, look at our culture these days. People are going after
everything.
Well, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
He wasn't attacking anybody.
We're in the cancel culture era.
What it is our country's become pussified, and we have all these hypersensitive people that can't handle life. If you think about it,
yeah, I agree with that.
Cyberbullying is a thing that is so detrimental to kids now, where they're committing suicide because of cyberbullying.
The problem is kids weren't brought up to be tough.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Our nation is pussified everybody. They coddle the kids. The kids are given participation trophies. It's like, come on.
I got one for waking up this morning.
It's like, come on, grow up.
Okay,
grow up.
I understand it. In kindergarten and first grade, getting a golden star or smiley face sticker.
But you actually did something.
But Jerry,
we got the golden stars and the smiley face stickers for him for coming to the podcast.
Scratch and sniff.
Yeah. Oh wait, dude! If you got scratch and sniff right now, like I would be super impressed. Like I missed those.
If my daughter was here, I would ask her because she probably does.
Dude, The Simpsons even did a scratch and sniff episode where you can scratch and sniff like what's going on.
Well, dude,
in the episode
in Jeremy
cool. Interactive.
In Jeremy and I's time, they didn't have copy machines. They had these. You had to put the ink in, and it was like a printing press roller type thing. It was purple ink.
Yeah,
and that was, man, we got high off smelling that.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah. You get
gnarly.
Your paper and be kind of warmish, and it just, like a Marks a Lot smells amazing. Oh yeah, and then rubber cement
machines, and you guys are only like 10, 15 years older than me.
There was in the 70s. There wasn't that.
Oh, when you guys were kids growing up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm talking about elementary school.
I thought you meant like 80s. I was like, huh?
No, they didn't even really have that much in the 80s either.
That's true.
Yeah, depended on the budget.
The 70s and 80s were a lot of tech just was innovated, and it was a big deal back then. I remember if you had HBO, like when I was a kid in the 80s.
You were fucking rich.
Or a Nintendo.
And you got stickers.
You guys remember On TV?
Yeah.
I think
On TV.
It was called On.
Back then you had like 4 channels.
They had porno on that on TV.
The Spice Channel scrambled. Remember that? That was like a big deal if you're a little kid. Like if you, you late at night, you wait till your parents go to sleep, then you go turn the TV on, and you're lucky if it like comes on for a second. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. See, when it
the squiggly lines.
I actually got in trouble for ordering the Spice Channel because back then you could just pick up a phone and just call these 1-900 numbers, 1-800 numbers. There was no restrictions or parental advice.
Actually, I had a friend that got in trouble thousands of dollars on one of those phone lines.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it was. He was even in the newspaper. They put his family.
Oh damn!
Totally embarrassing the hell out of the kid.
That's terrible. See, I thought I was bad because I asked my dad, and I didn't know any better then, if I could call a Nintendo 1-800 number, and I racked up like $400 on that thing. And he was able to get on the customer service with them and get it all waived. He's like, my 7-year-old son didn't know any better what he was doing, and I was at work, and he called and then just asked, because I was like savvy back
Well,
then.
that was back in the day
Yeah.
when you had they charge your phone bill.
So
that's what it was.
Yeah.
the
You're
home
paying,
phone bill.
You're
Yeah.
paying minutes,
Yeah.
like long distance, because you didn't have to have a credit card. It just went right to your phone.
And that was
bill.
before they would be like, oh, it's, the first couple minutes are free and then it's $4.95 a minute or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Something ridiculously high price.
$10.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't call any psychics back then.
yeah.
Boom. Because
$2,000
I knew better.
$1,000 on some sex phone line.
I knew of people who did get in trouble with those things, and then the psychic lines and all that other crap. You can call one of the Jacksons, Latoya Jackson, or didn't she have one of those?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was bizarre.
I was just going to make that joke too.
Call Madam Chloe.
Madam Chloe.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember those infomercials. Oh, that's funny, man.
Now they have it California Psychics or something going on there.
Yeah.
It's $1 a minute.
Yeah, you have to ask for me by my other name, Ahmed, and I'll talk to you and tell you things. You're on the phone right now with me.
And then
How did you know? That'll be $10.
Then there's the televangelists. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Have you? Speaking of getting all these psycho TV and gimmicks, did you do any songs about anything like that? Like any?
Actually, Let's Go Nowhere kind of talks about that. Like the opening line, talks about how like priests are inappropriate.
Yeah. Is that a song that we have loaded up here we can play?
That's the song that you guys opened up with.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah. Did you want to hear another song?
Yeah, you guys want to hear another song?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. We can do dealer's choice. You guys can just choose one randomly if you want.
Well, let's get some story behind something.
Okay.
All right, let's do it this way because I always find this fascinating. What's your favorite song? What song, like, really, when you think of, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to fucking play this right now. I'm proud to have written this.
Well, I love Cemetery personally because I wrote that song myself. And that's like one of the few songs that I actually wrote the structure and the lyrics for.
Okay.
Because I'm very basic when I write. I'll be like, here's a verse, here's a chorus riff.
Just a 4/4.
Here's an idea for the bridge piece,
right?
Where it would go. Because I'm more of a lyricist. I play guitar, but I'm a rhythm player. I can't like do leads and anything technical. So I always made sure to have like a ripping guitar player because I don't want to just play 3 chords entire song. I mean,
right.
So let's check out Cemetery.
Okay, cool. Okay, so again, what song was that?
Cemetery.
And what album's that on?
That is actually it's an interesting story because we put out a 2-song sampler when we came back after a 3-year hiatus where we were actively playing, and never like really publicly released it. I put it on, I think, SoundCloud, but that was a song that I always wanted to do a music video for, and I was so passionate because I wanted to have kind of a misfitsy kind of 50s ghouly type, almost like Cramps type song. Just every song we have is completely different than we want to have a wide variety of songs, but that's the definitive challenge with songwriting. So we don't want similarities.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. Because when we first came back, we slapped together and wrote a 10-song set. And we had 2 songs that sounded almost exactly the same. And that first show, I started singing the wrong lyrics for that song. And that was an early concept song for technology. It was called Fuck Your Phone.
Yeah, that sounds like along the lines of where I come up with lyric ideas from, and then sometimes they just stick.
Yeah, so
I don't want to get too intellectual.
We shit-canned both of those songs, and then started writing new songs when we had more proper time. But with Cemetery, we put that out on our self-titled album, our last one.
Okay.
And
then you got the video for it.
We finally, like during the pandemic, we were going stir crazy, man. And we had just picked up Gavin as our drummer a few months before we shot it. And I remember we were in the rehearsal space and we're like, well, guys were kind of bitching, like, why are we even rehearsing? We're not writing new songs. Like, what do we do? Live stream shows are kind of lame. We'll try doing one. And we had one set up, and that was after we did the video. And that was an epic fail.
How was that? What happened?
The system crashed like halfway during our set, and people have short attention spans. So people on Twitch were like talking shit to us because it took us 15 minutes to get back online. And at that point, our viewers dwindled.
Right.
And, everyone's trying to do this tip-based stuff. I think we made like $10. Someone tipped us $10.
Right.
And anyways, so we decided after we had scheduled that live stream thing, I was in the room. I was like, well, why don't we do another video? We haven't put out a video in a few years. And guys were like, well, what song do you want to do a video for? If you plan something, I'm down. Because they were all kind of burned out. You know what I mean? They were all scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. So they all have kids. And I was the only one in the band that didn't. And my life was a little more flexible. I was like, I've always talked about doing one for Cemetery. And I was like, and we had joked around about sneaking in, but seriously sneaking into a cemetery. I was like, man, you know what? Now we're more established with our video team, we can pull a film permit. Fairly certain it's not hard to do. I've already looked into it. So actually Craig our video guy went and pulled one for Mount Hope because we had looked at Presidio Park.
Right.
And I was like, no, it's so limited because it's not even really a cemetery anymore. It's a public park. I was like, I did some research and I was all, Mount Hope. Yeah. That's where I want to do it.
It's a beautiful
San Diego's oldest cemetery. And we went and did some location scouting, some mock footage just to get an idea. And, oh, man, I mean, we only had 4 hours to do our segment there for the film permit that we pulled. But I wish we had more time because there were so many like rad shot ideas that we had to cut out.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a challenge. Like the visuals in the song was telling a story in 3 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
So we also shot it around like San Diego. There's a really rad scene where I'm kind of walking down that huge hill in Golden Hill, and you see like the skyline of downtown.
Yeah.
And the shots of us in downtown. And then when we did the opening scene for our video Radiate at Fiesta Island. So when it called time to have me rise from the grave. We went and dug an actual grave and that they buried me in. They used mulch so I could breathe.
Yeah.
And I was like willing to do multiple takes if we had to, but we nailed it all in one take. So they actually really buried me, and I get to come back from the dead. So the whole concept of the song is, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to watch the video.
Right, absolutely.
But
you're coming out of a grave.
The song is all about trying to figure out what happened, whether someone pranked you or put you in a cemetery, or if you really did die and you're a ghost.
Right.
Or, it's interpretive. Yeah. All our songs are interpretive. Right. We've heard so many different explanations. Even some of the songs that like Andy wrote, like yesterday, he's like, just because the song's called Addiction, that's not really about that. And I was like, I know it's more psychological, right? And he's like, yeah, exactly. And he got like way more analytical about it than I ever really looked into that song. So it's interesting. Yeah. Like how we all have our own interpretations of what that song represents, whether we wrote the lyrics, personally or not, or collectively. So going back to Cemetery, it was such a fun shoot because this is the first time we got to really mess around with special effects.
Oh, right.
And the Wizard has become like our hidden sixth member. He's our MC, and he comes and introduces us before we play at a lot of our shows. His work schedule's been crazy because of the pandemic. He's the locksmith for Grossmont College.
Oh, okay.
So his hours are insane. So he hasn't been able to make a lot of our shows, but he plays a key role in Radiate, and he sends us into the future in that video. And in this video, I'll just say basically, I got the idea from watching an old Friday the 13th movie where lightning strikes and Jason rises from the ground. So like, he uses a staff to summon lightning and create like the, a sudden storm. And it's pretty cool how we shot it because like, we're working off like no budget really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was such a fun experience. Like Wasteland was grueling because there was so much shit going on and we shot so many hours of footage. That was such a tough video to put together. It was our first attempt and was very well received. This one, some people even thought was better than Radiate. And I was like, it's definitely different. And it's an idea I always wanted to do. I remember when I wrote the song for it, I had written the music and lyrically I was like, Mario was calling it the Ghoulie song. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, what am I do? I've never written like a kind of Misfitsy type song before. And I was watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I don't know if any of you guys have watched that show before, but it was the episode where Will Smith is jealous over Lisa's new boyfriend, who's like some college quarterback. And so he crashes this quarterback's jock party that she's at, and he challenges Will to a drinking contest, and Will doesn't drink.
Right.
So they have a shot contest, and Will passes out, and he's like, "Oh, you know what we do with people that pass out or whatever." And then the next scene, he's waking up in front of a tombstone in a cemetery, and he meets I think Robin Givens was the guest star in that episode, from Howard Stern show. He meets all these different ghosts. And then this one kid ghost that he meets is telling him how he got taken out by a drunk driver. So all of a sudden, dude, the hamster wheel in my brain just started activating, and I started writing right there. I was like, I got it. I was like, it's going to be an interpretive song where you're trying to figure out, you wake up in a cemetery, you're trying to figure out what the hell happened. Why am I here?
Right.
And am I dead? Like the last thing I remember is leaving the bar.
Right.
So we went down. The high dive was already closed. And we filmed the scene where I'm in the beginning, walking out of the high dive. And I just take my jacket and I throw it on the ground because the guys were like, well, you want to be like frustrated, like you're on a bender because you're mad at us or something like that, you know. And it's a very like fun and interpretive video. So check it out on our YouTube channel, and you know, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I did. Well,
Yeah.
you know, me, of course, you bring up graveyards, and I actually dug a few graves here for some photo shoots, and I didn't think of the mulch idea, but there's floating around an apprentice of mine. We did a full shoot where she had pill bottles, and she was in a prom dress. So the whole idea was after prom, you know, to basically stumbled into a grave, which just happens to be in my yard. But
That's awesome.
then again, I also have grave markers and coffins here. So,
Do you have anything actually buried back there for real?
oh yeah,
Yeah, pets, right?
Well, I'd rather not say their names because you know legal purposes. But Hoffa doesn't matter because it's just a myth, anyways. But he's back there. Jerry, what?
He's like, okay.
No, there's just animals and rodents and.
I remember you gave me a
Fish.
tour. You pointed out a few markers.
Yeah.
I actually had to bury my friend's dog because he's against cremation.
Yeah. Same here.
He wants it to be more natural. So we did it in Sorrento Valley, like right behind Bastyr University where he went to school. Because he's from Canada, so he brought the dog with him, and you know, it was his first experience like losing like your son.
Yeah,
that's what it felt
companion,
like.
Yeah,
you know, he's got 2 dogs and both siblings, so that was pretty tough on him. And it was the first time I've actually buried a dog before. That was quite the experience, man.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. But, you know, the imagery and everything goes along with a good song. And then if you're just in it for the aspects of the song itself, the imagery just goes along with the story. So, you know, you don't have to dive deep into all the intellectual part of the song, which is good about any good songwriting. You know, you can write something that's so political that you basically lose even the audience that likes you for your other stuff. So if you write something with a concept and a story and you just kind of let it flow and be creative, I mean, that's just brilliant as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's what we try to do because, you know, Andy sometimes is like, oh, we need to, you know, get a little crazier and we want to piss people off. And I was like, no, we don't, dude. I was like, he's like, well, who is Authentic Sellout then? Like, what do we stand for? I was like, well, we're kind of like musical freedom fighters, but we're not going to be like Tom Morello and Rage Against the Machine.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Rage Against the Mansion.
Yeah.
Those guys
Rage Against the Kardashians
are like political activists, eco activists.
Tom grew up well off. He wasn't like, you know, some poor kid. That's why I laugh when I see stuff like that. Or
yeah. I mean, who knows what fueled all that? You know, whether
it sells. I mean,
yeah,
stuff like that sells.
But I know like Zach is very passionate about that.
Well, Zach came from a different.
Yeah.
You know, Zach was in his other band before Rage.
And if you listen to like some of the live recordings he has, like the messages he has to express are pretty deep, man. He gets very historical about, you know, different instances and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he's also
some of the stuff is good. I mean, but it's just their message doesn't work anymore because of where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at the time it worked. But, you know, as times change, you know, your message gets diluted. That's what I like about the Cemetery song, personally, as it can, you know, it's not hard hitting you in the nose as a message of you need to make change. It's just something you can get into. It's got a great riff, you know, and then you got the video with it. So, you know, I'm not a YouTuber that much.
Have you seen? You haven't seen the video yet, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you have seen it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, so
that's why I didn't do any spoilers.
Yeah, that's why I'm not trying to give too many spoilers away. But we also kind of tied it into contemporary times at the same time. And I lost a lot of friends and band members, and not in my band, but like people I used to book to DUI accidents.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was them or
people you worked for.
Yeah, people I worked with. Yeah.
It's a good tribute.
And
That's good,
I wanted kind of an anti, like almost like a PSA, but not like don't drink and drive. So I took that old Beastie Boys line they have off, like, I think Paul's Boutique or something. It's like, if you're drinking, don't drive, and if you're driving, don't drink.
Yeah.
So I always say that at the beginning of every song, except I add in, or else you might wake up in front of your own tombstone.
Yeah.
That's
a good message, but it's not a cancel culture message. It's not in your face and putting you down. That's.
We don't make like personal references to anything, really. Like, we don't talk shit about China. We don't talk shit about the pandemic. We don't talk shit about Trump. Those are all the interpretive messages.
But you talk shit about Biden.
We don't talk shit about anybody personally.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. I got nothing to say about that old ass man. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, let's do what things do you want to promote right now, and like where should we be sending people just to remind them?
So we have social media, so you can check us out, Authentic Sellout on Facebook, Authentic Sellout Instagram. You could check us out on our YouTube channel. That's where we have all our interactive content, our music videos. We've been doing Sellout TV for 2 years now, and we've got, I think, 9 or 10 episodes. We got another one coming out. I respond to most of the messages on all the social media and the YouTube. So if you have any questions, or you're in a band and want to try to set up a show or something, feel free to hit us up.
Are you still doing King on the Couch?
Oh, the King's Couch podcast show. I haven't done anything this year yet because I went through that whole breakup. So that kind of, I started during that as a kind of a healing process, and then she didn't move out until like February, so I kind of stopped doing it for a while. But I'm coming back. Actually, I'm going to be doing my first full video produced King's Couch episode, because I've always kind of wanted to do it like a late night show format, and they actually have studios that you can rent out to do that.
Oh, that's cool.
Here in San Diego. So, but this next one I'm going to be doing is going to be with Giovanni Santillan, that welterweight boxer from the boxing club that I was telling you about. And you guys could check out the King's Couch podcast show too, if you want. What
about booking? Where do they book you guys at?
What do you mean?
Do you have a booking agent, or do you do it all yourself?
I do all the booking myself. I just utilize all the industry friends and contacts I've acquired over the years. Yeah, so right now we don't have anything coming up because we're trying to work on new material, but if anything pops up, you guys will see it advertised.
Okay. And we'll do the links in the episode info, and we're looking at probably 3 months, and this is going to be in the season 3. Awesome. For the Union and Metro podcast. I made a mistake. I was telling a kid yesterday, and it's not it's just Union and Metro podcast. And Sulo, you're the man. Thank you, brother.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks for coming in.
Of course. My pleasure.
This podcast was recorded at Red Rum Skates. Mixed by me, Jer. Music provided by Breakacre. We appreciate all our listeners and our guests. Please stay tuned until the next one. Have a great one. Bye.